This is reposted.
Okay, Mr. Keller, like most families, I'm assuming, over the holiday, they went to the Disney Plus and watched the new Disney movie or Pixar movie, Soul. The Olsen family did that. It's about jazz, sort of brainstorming. I feel like we needed some jazz quotes, so I came upon this from Miles Davis. You should never be comfortable, man. Being comfortable fouled up a lot of musicians. My wife and I were cruising along in life. We had two kids. They had reached 4 and 2. We were in a very easy spot. My wife had lost all of the weight that she had put on during pregnancy. She was very happy. Life had become very easy. And I turned to her, I said, I don't think it should be this easy. I think we need a third kid. Let's make it a little more difficult. She was like, no. I said, a month later, I think we need a third kid. She said, no. Andrew Keller, the question is, have you ever on life made it purposely harder than it needed to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think working out is purposely being harder than life needs to
Yep.
be because there's like a long-term goal. Um, but I haven't ever said I need a third kid. And that's interesting to me because I always thought that was just like, oh, it happened, but I didn't realize you willed it into manifestation. Um, but yeah, it's hard to be able to put yourself in a situation that makes things harder, but in the long run, I mean, I say it all the time, but I feel like it makes you better by putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation.
When me and my wife were dating early on, I was a little bit older-ish, and I used to call it the ropes course. I would purposefully take us on difficult adventures to see, I'm like, are we compatible when we get in awkward, tight situations? Can this work out? I think you mean you could find out about a person over a longer period of time. My theory was like, well, let's just shorten this up and make it more awkward in a shorter amount of time.
The ropes course. I like that when you were dating, you were a little bit older, and now y'all are the same age.
Well,
I always think, and this wasn't by plan or design, but like to really know if you're compatible with someone, you should travel with them because generally in travel, you're gonna be in difficult situations. Nicole and I went to India for 10 days. We came back to LA for 24 hours, then went to Sweden for 10 days, and then we came back for like 8 hours and then flew to Dallas, all in like 3 weeks. And we made it through that. And I was like, maybe we're compatible."
we know some people in our life that have made and earned enough money that they are comfortable for the rest of all of their life. They don't have to make any decisions. They can do whatever they want on a daily basis.
Hmm.
I am not poor, but I definitely am going to have to work for a long time in my life. And I feel like that grind, the gears going, uh, is life. Like if you're just resting on what you've done, you're missing out on the day to day. Once again, if you're on the Serengeti and you don't think a lion's going to come eat you, you're just going to sit in your tent. Life's got to keep moving forward. And if you don't have a challenge, they always say, like, those guys that retire after doing their
Yeah.
job for 50 years, they die like the next week after.
Or people that have been married for 50 years, they die a day apart or something. I think my pushback on this quote a little bit is that you don't jump out of an airplane to see if a parachute works. So like putting yourself in the uncomfortable situation might be starting down a path that is more difficult than you might necessarily want to do. Like you'll be able to get through it, but
But that's
yeah.
that's the whole point. I mean, it's not uncomfortable if you know that it's going to be comfortable. I mean, it might be dangerous, hard, tricky, might have bad outcomes, but that's the whole point. It's not uncomfortable unless it's, well, scary.
I feel like this is going to be a show just full of analogies. It also made me think of the people that we know that don't ever have to do anything ever again. Like if you get kind of complacent, you could be the frog in the boiling water, where like you slowly change and you don't realize you're changing, and like who you were when you retired or whatever the thing is. I guess technically I retired, but it's like if you get comfortable and complacent, you're going to become less interesting and kind of boring, and I don't want to hang out with you anymore.
Yeah, like you're kind of outside of the game. Like I'm fully in the game. I got to raise 3 kids. I got to go to work. Like those people that we know, like almost are not playing the game anymore. They're in like a whole different realm of life. And I don't know, you don't stay connected to, for lack of a better term, like normal people.
Yeah, and I guess on an extreme example of this, you look at elite athletes who Tom Brady probably could have retired a long time ago. He doesn't even have to work because his wife makes so much
Yeah.
money, but he's always putting himself in uncomfortable situations. He could have retired a long time hero in New England and decided to take Tampa Bay to their first playoff berth in however many years. So there's people that I think you look at and you're like, I wish I was more like that, are always putting themselves in uncomfortable situations. I can't think of anyone that I admire that is always fine with the status quo.
You know, you hear this a lot from actors. They'll be like movie actors. So they started out and whatever. And then they go like, well, then I went and acted on Broadway on the stage,
Yeah.
which I've got to assume acting in a movie is completely different than going out on Broadway every single night.
Yeah, I've never done it, but from what I understand, the difficulty of it is you're doing 8 shows a week and it's just a grind. And then hearing people talk about doing long Broadway runs, they get into this thing where it becomes so monotonous that you're on an autopilot and you have to find new ways to keep it interesting. And I would love to do a run on Broadway. That would be a dream of mine.
I've never been on a movie set, but I'm assuming like if you come out and you mess your lineup, they just do another take. On Broadway, like you mess your lineup and then it just keeps going. You messed up.
There's no safety net. I think also this is kind of fun thinking about, I want to toot our horns a little bit. This quote about jazz. I feel like this show is a little bit about jazz because we don't really do that much prep and you never know where it's going to be. And jazz is a lot of improvisation. And if you're going to have an interesting life, you need to be able to improvise in whatever situation that comes up. If you're very comfortable, you don't have to.
And I think like just on that, if you listen to Miles Davis, maybe some of the later stuff, even you go like, man, he's playing the wrong notes, but the wrong notes have become the right notes. Like he kind of changed jazz and music forever because he was playing the wrong notes when everybody thought he should be playing the right notes.
Yeah.
I just want to wrap up with your quote. I like the idea of exercise being uncomfortable. And it's always the next day when I'm sore that I'm like, oh yeah, I exercised. Now my body's uncomfortable, but in the long run, that's better for me. I think that's exercise is the ultimate uncomfortableness.
And so is flossing.
Yeah. Oh, flossing.
Flossing's uncomfortable. Nobody likes that.
But well, I'd rather floss than brush my teeth at this point. Like if it's late at night and I just want to go to bed, I will literally floss and not brush my teeth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, if you have a bad case of morning breath, please reach out. You can find us at Reposted Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. I'm Andrew Keller for The Fourth Dentist saying thanks for stopping by.